Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So as you know, Tuesday means it's Type 2 or Standard Tuesday, and we have a super sweet ultra budget standard deck to look at today. This is Mono Black Curse Control. Recently took Akuta Messiah to a undefeated finish in the infamous Small Japanese tournament, so congrats to Akuta on their finish with the deck. A quick reminder before we break down Curse Control for Standard. If you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So Curse Control is built around two curses, Torment of Scarabs and also Trespasser's Curse. So the basic idea of this deck is to stick a Torment of Scarabs, maybe two Torment of Scarabs if we get lucky, and then do everything we can to support Torment of Scarabs in winning the game. So basically, we want to get cards out of our opponent's hand. We want to keep permanents off the battlefield, which forces our opponent to take a lightning bolt to the face on their upkeep every turn, and eventually that's going to just grind our opponent out of the game, or that's the plan at least. So Torment of Scarabs is basically our primary win condition. Trespasser's Curse is very good against creature decks. It gives us a little bit more damage, draining our opponent whenever they play a creature, whenever it enters the battlefield. So it really depends on the matchup. If you run into a deck like Blue-White Monument, Trespasser's Curse can be almost unbeatable just by itself. It is so strong. On the other hand, if you play against Blue-Red Control or a deck with fewer creatures, then Trespasser's Curse is almost a dead card. So it's a little bit hit or miss, but in the right matchups, it can deal a lot of damage as well. Our last win condition, oh my goodness, I can't believe we're seeing this card in Standard, Wall of Forgotten Pharaohs. So a 0/4 colorless wall for 2 mana, but you can tap it as long as you would control a desert and deal a damage to an opponent. So basically the plan is we get out Wall of the Forgotten Pharaohs early, it blocks all the creatures from Ramunap, right, and so forth, so it plays some defense, and then we have a lot of deserts in this deck, so over the course of time, we just ping our opponent, that adds in with the Trespasser's Curse damage, which adds in with the Torment of Scarabs damage, and hopefully we just ultra jankily drain our opponent out of the game. Our last win condition is Ob Nixilis Reignited, which just does everything. It draws us cards, keeps us finding more action, more curses, can kill creatures, which is nice because it supports Torment of Scarabs, keeping sacrifice fodder off the table, and then if we ever get to Ultimate, it pretty much just wins the game over the course of a few turns as our opponent draws cards, gets drained out. The rest of the deck, we have a ton of creature removal to make sure our opponent doesn't have the sack a creature option with Torment of Scarabs. Fatal Push, Grasp of Darkness for the early game. Grasp also gets Hazoret, which is nice. Murder gets anything at instant speed. Hour of Glory, another way to deal with gods like Hazoret or Ronas that might come down. Never to Return gives us some Planeswalker hate, can also make a creature and hate on graveyards. Then we have Yahani's Expertise and Bantu's Last Reckoning to sweep away a whole board full of creatures. Can be very strong against Mono Red, against some of the blue-white decks that are floating around. And then we have a bunch of discard to make sure our opponent doesn't have cards in hand that they can discard to pay for Torment of Scarab. So basically everything we're doing in the deck is trying to make sure our opponent has as few options as possible when we have our Torment of Scarabs out. Doomfall is awesome because not only does it get a card out of our opponent's hand, if our opponent doesn't have any cards in hand, which is a possibility with all the discard we have and Torment of Scarabs being active, we can always use it to get rid of a creature on the battlefield as well with the second option, Lay Bare the Heart. Early game, discard, Harsh Scrutiny, a little bit more limited because it only hits creatures, but only 1 mana, gives us something to do on turn 1. As far as the mana base, we have a pretty big desert package. Actually, 11 deserts in all, 4 Ifnir Dreadlands, more removal. Desert of the Glorified can be a desert to sack to Ifnir Dreadlands, or we can cycle it away. Hostile Desert takes advantage of all of our land sacking as a backup threat, can play some defense. Scavenger Grounds to deal with graveyards against God Pharaoh's gift decks and other graveyard-based strategies. And then Evolving Wilds probably looks super weird in a mono black deck, but it's another way to fuel our Scavenging Grounds, giving us a land in our graveyard that we can exile. So even though it's very odd to see Evolving Wilds in a monocolor deck, it actually makes some amount of sense because it is hard to fuel Scavenging Grounds, a bunch of swamps, and Blighted Fen for even more removal in our lands. As far as the sideboard, one of the sweetest parts about this deck is we can transform out all of our curse plan and become a kind of creature heavy beatdown deck. So if you think about this deck, and this is probably my favorite part of this whole deck, if you think about this deck, we have basically no creatures in the main deck. We have those walls, that's the only thing. So any smart opponent is going to notice that and going to say, okay, they're playing all non-creature spells. I got to get rid of these Fatal Pushes, got to get rid of these Grasp of Darknesses, definitely don't want these Fumigates, and peel out a lot of their removal to bring in discard and stuff like that. And then we counter that by bringing in a ton of creatures. Gifted Aetherborn for turn 2, Ammon Eternal is a super fast clock if our opponent doesn't have removal, Dream Stealer to attack our opponent's hand, Gonti Lord of Luxury, so we can take out all the discard, we can take out a lot of removal, we can take out the curses, and transform into this creature beatdown deck that our opponent's not going to have an answer for because they likely sideboarded out all their answers for this stuff. So it's a really sweet transformational sideboard plan. Otherwise, Lost Legacy to deal with Ulamogs and Ramp, Crook to deal with graveyard decks, To the Slaughter and Bantu's Last Reckoning for a little bit more removal, and that's Curse Control for Standard, and that's our instant deck tech for today. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.